We are back for the 2023 NFL football season. In the Miz's picks, I'll give you a lock. I try to pick some dogs. I try to mix it up and give you a salad. But the Miz loves giving his picks. And when he's wrong, he'll tell you he's wrong. But be honest, how often is that? The Miz's picks for a 2023 NFL season. Sunday is week 1 in the league where they play for pay. And the league started off with an upset right off the bat last night as the Detroit Lions and that pitbull of a coach went into Kansas City and showed the country that this ain't the Detroit that we all grew up watching and laughing at. This is a new era, and the Detroit Lions are roaring aloud. Strong, talented team. I expect a big season out of them. 11 wins is not out of the question. I expect them to win 11. I expect them to win the NFC North. The Detroit Lions last night announced to the country they have arrived with a big win in Kansas City on the night where Kansas City raised their championship banner. And yeah, I'm a Giant fan, and for the Giant fans out there, he who laughs, he laughs last. Never once did you ever hear me praise that guy. Tony the Clown, from the night we drafted him, I hated him. Everything about his attitude, personality, and body language spewed non-football. It was everything but football. And last night he showed you why. Because I award him the MVP of the game last night. He's the MVP for the Detroit Lions, who wore a Kansas City uniform. But screw that. Let's go to the picks. Right? The 2023 season's here. The Miz has a couple of picks for you. I don't do the entire slate of games. Yes, sir. Game number 1. Let's go out to Western Pennsylvania, to the Steel City. The Pittsburgh Steelers will host the 49ers. The 49ers have a booming roster, and they're expected to make a late run this year. It's been pretty much the same expectations for the last 4 to 5 years. Let's be honest. It's time for the Niners to win a Super Bowl. The 49ers got to win a Super Bowl. Anything less is just mashed potatoes. Anything less is a disappointment from the head coach, the GM down. This is a team that invested a world in Trey Lance in an NFL draft, and then they turn around and just give him away for a cookie. Maybe the kid hasn't panned out. We don't know. He suffered an injury. It's yet to be determined. Cowboys felt good about him. They went and picked him up. Probably to put a little scare or light a fire on the deck. Not here or there. The 49ers, our expectations are a Super Bowl or bust. And that's just what it is. You can make the NFC Championship year after year after year, but after a while, you start to become a clown. You got to win the championship It's all about the Lombardi, and it's been 30-something years. The 49ers are strong enough to do it this year. We're going to find out if they have the heart. The 49ers travel to Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers were a young team on the rise. There's big expectations for the Steelers too. It may not be Super Bowl, but some people think the Steelers can definitely make some noise in January. Kenny Pickett looks like the real deal. You got a Hall of Fame coach. Guy's a beast. What is it? 15, 16 years. Never a year under 500. My God. That's one hell of a coach. And the Steelers have a young, strong defense. They're very strong in the trenches where you want to be, and they got real good, talented wide receivers. What else is new? The Pittsburgh Steelers. All right? That's an organization of stability. The Steelers host the 49ers. The Niners are traveling from west to east. They play a 1 p.m. game in Pittsburgh, which really, body-wise, for the teams from the west, is 10 a.m. in the morning. I don't like that. Bosa just signed a day ago. Hasn't had any camp. Hasn't had any football training. Some people will say Bosa's so amazing he doesn't need it. But guess what, man? That's how you hurt yourself. You got to have some practice. So, therefore, it leads me to believe Bosa will not be able to give you an entire football game. They'll probably put him in on third downs. That's what I would do. Or in a crucial situation midway through the fourth and on. Can he impact the game? Of course he can. He's one of the best defensive ends in football. He's a beast. I find this to be a tough spot for the Niners. I think the Niners will still go on and win about 12 games this year. 11 to 12 wins. They're going to win the West. And they're going to probably make noise in January. But on this day, I think it's a rough opening to the season. As we saw last night, one underdog went in and beat a defending champ. And I'm going to continue that theme. The Pittsburgh Steelers are plus 2.5 at home. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers with the plus 2.5. I'm going to pick the Steelers to win the game outright. 20-17. On to game number 2. We fly up to Minnesota. The Purple People. The Minnesota Vikings are minus 5.5 against Tampa Bay. I'll tell you right now, Tampa Bay will rival the Arizona Cardinals this year for the worst record in football with a Caleb Williams on their mind. At some point, both these teams will lose, dare I say, tank. A matter of fact, I think Arizona Cardinals already began their tank back on August 18th. The earliest tank ever in history for the Arizona Cardinals, are the earliest tank in his NFL history. They started their tank in mid-August by trading away a couple of their key players. And they traded them away for jelly beans. So 2 wins for these teams. You're looking at a 2-3 win season. Maybe Tampa finds a way to 4. I don't know. The Minnesota Vikings are minus 5.5. Give me the Minnesota Vikings at home. It's simple. They will blow Tampa out 31-13. Game number 3. Let's go to Chicago, where the young revived the Chicago Bears behind Fields and a monster linebacker, Edmonds. The Bears acquired from Buffalo. The Bears are young, they're hungry, they're at home. They're minus 1.5 to the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people think Love will keep the Packers up there. I don't. You don't lose Rodgers and continue what you've been doing for decades. You have to take a hit. I believe the Packers will take a hit this year. They'll be in a lot of close games, but they're going to find themselves on the losing side rather than on the winning side. Love's going to have to learn and grow. And for years, the Bears have been the Packers' beat-up dummy. For about 30 years, Favre and Rodgers have abused the Bears for decades. That ends on opening Sunday. The Chicago Bears are -1.5. I think they're going to stick it to Green Bay. Give me the Bears 27-17. The Bears win their first game. Green Bay goes to 0-1. Now we fly west for a big Western game. The Chargers are expected to have a big year behind Herbert. The team is fully loaded. Fully loaded, and Herbert's one of the best in football, in my opinion. The Chargers are -3. They're hosting the talented Miami Dolphins with Waddle, Hill, Tua. Let me tell you something about the Dolphins. It's been like this from the day I was born. It hasn't changed. I'm 47 years old. The Miami Dolphins have always been about a show and not about winning championships. They bring in talented players from other teams. They spend big money because they don't draft so well. So they take your talented players from the other teams that are looking for big money, and they pay them the big money so that they can get these fans in Florida to go to the game. The fans here, they don't go to the game in Miami. They'd rather be on the beach surfing. So they go out and they bring in other teams' talented players, sort of like bringing in really good actors to Broadway so people will come in and watch the show. That's not how you build a championship. It looks nice on ESPN on Sunday nights, but they're never standing there on Super Bowl day. When's the last time Miami's been to a Super Bowl? Nothing's changed. I'm not a believer in this team. They got a lot of talent. It's a fun, happy place in Miami. It's a place to go catch a nice game, a show, drink, take a girl on a date. The team is not about winning a championship. They build all these young, sexy names from other teams, but they neglected the O-line. They have a quarterback with major head issues, one concussion away from career probably being over, and they do not stack the O-line for the guy. Ingredients for a disaster. Miami goes across to play a real team in LA. To me, they're still the San Diego Chargers. It's never going to change. The Chargers, I believe this year, are going to have a big football year. I like them for about 11 wins. I like them to go neck to neck with Kansas City for the AFC West. The Chargers are a player. They're going to be dealt with. The Chargers are -3 on Sunday. It's a 4:30 game, I believe. Miami, give me the Chargers in a high-scoring affair. I'm going to take the Chargers in this game 34-28. Yes, sir. The Chargers win the game by about a touchdown. Change up the music a little bit. Okay. Our next game. Those are the 4 games. Now we're going to hit the New York region. Sunday night. A monster game in the NFC East. The old school division. The Dallas Cowboys, the hated Cowboys, are coming up to New York to face the New York Football Giants. Everybody knows the Cowboys has owned the Giants' ass for 5 years. 5 years. Yes, couple of those years, the Giants were a mess. They didn't have a real coach. They didn't have a real team. Beginning years, Eli was at the end. But a new regime has come to town, and the Giants have climbed out of their slumber. Giants have added talent and have drafted arguably one of the best in the league over the last 2 years under these Buffalo guys, Joe Shane and Dabble. The Cowboys are stacked, and there's no argument about it. In my eyes, they have the best pass rush in the NFL and the best single defender in the NFL in Micah Parsons. He's dominated the league his first 2 years, and I'll even throw you a prediction right now. Micah Parsons is going to win the Defensive Player of the Year. Make no mistake about it. Barring any injuries. It's been 5 long years that the Giants have been abused by the Cowboys. And if the Giants and their Giant fan base, including myself, wants to be recognized as a team that's arriving and can make some noise in this league come winter, if you want to be respected, you got to win a big division game at home on the home opening night. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no the ref did this. There's no the game was close. They know the Giants gave them a good fight. We'll get them next time. There's none of that bullshit. That shit's over. That was for 2 years ago. If you want to be the team that this fan base thinks we deserve to be in the eyes of the public, you walk off that field with a win Sunday night at home in front of your 90,000 against the hated rival Cowboys that you haven't beaten in 5 years. Nothing less than a W at home, because you cannot expect to go to Dallas later in the year and win over there. So you better take care of business at home in front of your stadium. It's going to be loud. The fan base is a believer and hungry. And the Giants now have the talent. So there's no more excuses. You have one of the better O-lines in the league. You have one of the best defensive lines in the league. And you have one of the best coaching crews in the league. And the Dallas Cowboys are loaded, and they are considered a Super Bowl contender. But it doesn't matter, because if you want to be in that level in the NFC, you know, right behind the Niners and Eagles, right alongside the Cowboys, this is a must-win for the New York Giants in Week 1. I know it's only the first game of the year, but if there's a must-win around the league in Week 1, it's probably the 2 New York teams. I feel it's going to be a tough game. I know the Cowboys have one of the best pass rushers in the league, so the Giants' O-line is going to be tested, especially Evan Neal against Lawrence. Giants going to have a smart football game. They're going to have no turnovers. It's going to be a battle, and Daniel Jones is going to have to go down the field late in the game and go get this win. And I'm a big believer in Daniel Jones. I believe now he's finally ready. This year, I believe Jones steps up. You can see it in his body language, his confidence, his swagger. He is the leader of this team along with Barkley. The hardest game of the week to call. To me, it's a 50-50 ball game. But for once, I'm going to give the Giants the edge, because I think we finally got to that level. And being at home on opening night in front of the entire nation, the Giants go win this game late in the game in the final minutes. 24-21 New York Football Giants send a message to the division. Monday night, the Jets. Aaron Rodgers' New York New Jets show up. They've been in the spotlight all summer. There's been a lot of talk. There's a lot of arrogance coming out of there. But we're going to find out Monday night when they host one of the best teams in the nation. The division rival from Western New York, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are coming off a season that was a disappointment. They were a Super Bowl team, and they didn't live up. They had some injuries. Things didn't go their way. Josh Allen had a hard time. But I believe the Buffalo Bills will bounce back and have a big year this year. Just when some of the people across the country has turned their backs and given up on the Bills, I believe the Bills are going to have a monster year. I'm predicting a 12-win season. The Buffalo Bills will win the division, and I'm actually picking the Bills to go to the Super Bowl this year. I got the Bills in the AFC. To throw in a little special, I'll give you my Super Bowl prediction. The Buffalo Bills will go in the AFC. And as much as I hate this team, the 49ers, I believe, might get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And I believe the Buffalo Bills are going to win their first Super Bowl in history. That's a little missed bonus. The Buffalo Bills will be the 2023-24 Super Bowl champs. Josh Allen will win MVP of the Super Bowl. But that's for later. And it's Monday night. The Buffalo Bills come down to MetLife Stadium. Some call it Giants Stadium. The Jets still think it's partially their home. But hey, that's not here or there. The Jets and Aaron Rodgers have been riding high. Spotlights, the country's been watching. People are getting tired of them. The hard knock team. The tough guy team. Listen, remind you, the Jets haven't won a playoff game in 14 years. That's the longest streak in the NFL. I believe the Jets go into the playoffs this year. I believe the Jets win 10 games, 10-7. Maybe with a bounce of a ball or a late field goal, they get to 11 wins. But I'm going to give them 10-7. And ironically, I have the Giants doing the same. Right about 9 to 10 wins. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Go 10-7 and get a wild card. Both teams will make wild cards, second place in the division. But on Monday night, I believe the Jets will do the same as what the Giants will do. They will live up to the passion and the emotion of the stadium. It'll be loud for Rodgers, and I think Rodgers brings a spark, along with the Jets defense, which has to be ranked in the top 3 in the NFL. Arguably, maybe 1 right there with the 49ers right now. The Jets have a top-level defense and a Hall of Fame quarterback. Very good wide receivers, talented running backs. The one question mark is the O-line, and that could wreck a season, especially when you have a 40-year-old quarterback. So we'll find out if their O-line gels as we go. The Buffalo Bills are hungry. They have a chip on their shoulder because they didn't live up last year. It's a very hard game to pick. I'm going to give the Jets the edge here at home, like I did the Giants. I don't believe they have any shot at going to Buffalo and winning later in the year. I'm going to take the Jets 20-17 and give the Jets a benefit of the doubt right here. Their Week 2 game is tough in Dallas, but for Week 1, the Jets are plus 2.5. I'll take them with the plus 2.5. I even buy a half and play it safe and make it 3. I think the Jets win the game 20-17. That's the Miz's picks for Week 1 in a league where they play for pay. Tomorrow I will have a video on the Giants Sunday night game and their schedule for the season.